Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Echo at Africa, brought to you from the Nnamdi Kanu Park in Alausa area of Lagos, Nigeria. This is what we have for you. We visit a young scientist who has created a new water filter. In Spain, we find out how a young business is doing its bit for the environment. Then we examine efforts by individuals and organizations to prevent and tackle soil erosion in Nigeria. Welcome. Let's head to an island not too far away from here in Sao Tome and Principe. Many of the residents make their living as fishermen. But over the years, huge foreign trawlers fishing off the coast of Western Africa have had a negative impact on their catch. We bring you a story of David and Goliath in the sea. Don't ask me what that means. What's this?
One last deep breath, and he starts swimming down, deep beneath the surface. Nelson Mendez will remain underwater for up to 3 minutes. He'll use his harpoon to hunt for the perfect fish. He hasn't had any luck so far today. Back on board, the rest of the crew is still hopeful. The sea isn't very good today. It's very choppy, and that's stirring up the water. It took 3 hours to reach this spot, so they're not ready to give up yet. Time to head back down, and this dive is more successful. Mendez has been fishing the waters off Sao Tome's coast for 15 years now, but over the years his catch has dwindled. It's because of the big ships that come here and steal our fish. They also scare off the fish with their noisy engines. It's a problem for us, because we local fishermen live off our catch. We head out to sea every day. That's our job. And it's the only way we have to support our families. Foreign vessels like this one are part of the problem. They are poachers fishing illegally. Interpol even issued an international notice against the Thunder. But no government was prepared to foot the bill to pursue the blacklisted trawler. So activists from the environmental organization Sea Shepherd took matters into their own hands. They chased the ship for about 4 months, gathering evidence. With that evidence, Frederique Viegas Dabroy, Attorney General of Sao Tome, opened an investigation.
As a small country, as a tiny country, I can think that the government don't have a resource to put on the investigation, especially for the police departments in terms of equipment and investigative techniques. So that's why we always count on international cooperation.
In April 2015, the Thunder sank off the coast of Sao Tome. The environmental activists say it was a deliberate act intended to destroy evidence. The captain and 2 crew members were convicted, receiving sentences of up to 3 years. For Sao Tome, it's an important victory in the battle against poaching.
It sends a message that even a tiny country like Sao Tome being able to prosecute and to trial those people which were involved in terms of illegal fishing in the South Sea, they have been tried and sentenced. I think that right now many of them may think twice before going to these kind of activities.
The crew have returned to the capital city of Sao Tome. Nelson Mendez says today's catch was a good one. It will bring in about 40 euros, which the crew will share. It's enough to keep his family of 7 afloat, for now. But Mendez doesn't want his children to become fishermen. No. The work is too hard. They can go out for sport as practice, but not as a job. It doesn't pay enough anymore. Most of the fishermen on Sao Tome have no choice. For them, fishing is their only livelihood. If the fish continue to disappear from the coastal waters, Nelson Mendez and his crew will have to sail out even further to find the fish that will support their families.
From the salty waters of the Atlantic Ocean to the preservation of fresh water. In certain areas of sub-Saharan Africa, access to good drinking water could be a struggle. Using nanotechnology, Askar Hilonga came up with a brilliant invention. The chemical engineer from Arusha in Tanzania developed a filter that cleans water to drinking standards.
Engineer Askwar Halonga is putting his invention to the test. He's developed a system for purifying water using nanomaterials. They're small filters with a big job, removing dirt, heavy metals, and other impurities to make water safe to drink.
This is safe, clean drinking water.
But where did the idea come from?
It began as a scientific curiosity. I chose that field of nanomaterials for my PhD. But I realized that nanomaterials have an enormous capacity.
Nelson Mandela University in Arusha, a city in northern Tanzania. Here in the laboratory, Hilonga produces the nanomaterials needed for his filters. He's been researching them for 8 years, first as a PhD student in South Korea, and now in his home country. He's won international awards for his nanofilter, and it's also made him a role model for junior researchers.
They see the value of developing something from your scientific background and using that innovation to solve the real problem, not theoretical, real problem.
A real problem that's easy to see in Arusha. Locals get their water from rivers or wells, and it's often contaminated. Across the country, 7,000 children die every year as a result of unsafe drinking water. Large amounts of fluoride in the water supply can cause other problems, such as damage to bones and teeth. The nanofilter removes this and other harmful substances from the water. Hilonga is on his way to meet a customer. He's found a company to sell his water filter. The going price is about $130. That's too expensive for most Tanzanians to afford, so Hilonga is renting them out in places where the public can reach them, like this drugstore. The owner pays 1,000 Tanzanian shillings a day, or about 50 cents in US dollars. In exchange, Hilonga makes sure the filter is working properly and replaces it when it's used up. Diarrhea, typhoid, cholera are all preventable, and this scientist wants to make sure they're gone for good.
This is the 21st century. These are old age diseases. We have a potential to solve it. So I'm angry now on this because we have a solution. Why not just deploy and solve the problem?
But it will take patience. First, the public needs to get accustomed to using the device. This drugstore has been offering a public water station since October last year. And by the end of this year, there are expected to be 1,000 more like it.
The Bazaruto archipelago off the coast of Mozambique is a place to see giant manta rays. But like many other species, their body parts are sought after for traditional Chinese medicine, thereby putting pressure on their population. The Marine Megafauna Foundation has been monitoring the mantas and other wildlife for years. However, as science alone won't turn the tide, researchers have teamed up with the National Park Rangers to save their protégés.
Everyone must be absolutely silent. Andrea Marshall and her team are looking for a large sea creature, the dugong.
Andrea!
The dugong is extremely shy and can easily outswim the humans.
This park is so incredibly important for megafauna species, especially threatened ones like manta rays and dugongs. This really is the last habitat left in Africa for dugongs. This is the last viable population of dugongs that we have along this coastline. And for manta rays, this was an incredible place. This was, in all my travels around the world, I've never encountered a location where both species of manta rays live.
These nutrient-rich waters are a favorite breeding ground for several large fish and marine mammal species. Even though it's a protected area, fish stocks have been dwindling. Tomasz Manasseh was born on the main island. He supervises 23 rangers for the national park. He says they need to be more to cover the many jobs rangers have to do. They go on patrols, collect data, and provide information. Local people want to know why farming has to be limited on the islands, and fishing as well. Manasseh and his brothers are the first in their family who don't make a living from fishing. It's the only way the region will have a future, he says.
The communities outside the national park have no spaces where the fish can reproduce. As fish stocks decline, the pressure grows. That leads to ever greater conflicts with the fishermen from the mainland. They even encroach on the totally protected areas to go fishing.
But what alternatives do the fishermen have for their livelihoods?
This is a really, really important area for the beauty, for the heritage of not
Maybe
just Mozambique,
tourism.
but the heritage of Africa.
Andrea Marshall and her team have invited 10 park rangers and their new superior to take part in training. It's the first professional training many of them have ever had.
Such an exciting day for me. We've been anticipating doing an event like this for government, for a national park for a very long time. For me, being a researcher out here in Mozambique, I've been stuck for many years. I've been trying to find out how to work better with government, how to help try and build capacity more. They think is most important.
Park director Ricardina Matuse is relatively new. For the first time, they've been working closely together. On a map, they mark exactly where they've seen what animal species and compare the sightings with the researchers' data.
This course is very important. If we manage to work together well on the first phase, we'll be able to negotiate a second and a third. We'll learn how to go diving ourselves to show the tourists the fish and other things.
By the end of the course, almost everyone here will be able to swim in the open ocean. Andrea Marshall depends on their help. After every dive, she evaluates her shots. Each manta ray has its distinguishing marks. She also works with genetic samples for what may be the world's most comprehensive manta ray data bank.
Manta rays are worth a lot of money, and Mozambique is currently ranked number 4 in terms of countries around the world that are profiting from manta ray tourism. And Mozambique is making sort of somewhere in the vicinity of $7 to $8 million a year off manta ray tourism. Manta ray diving tourism, and I feel that that definitely can be an incentive for government to say, listen, this animal is worth a lot more alive than it is dead. We've lost about 88% of the population in the last sort of 8 to 10 years. We don't really have much time to be able to, rebuild those numbers before they're regionally extinct here.
Even so, Mozambique has yet to place the manta ray on its list of protected species.
Well, as the challenges of climate change continue to take their toll on the world, new green technology is becoming increasingly efficient in building a sustainable future. A group of young entrepreneurs in Spain have found a way to extract energy from plants. Now, their methods have been so successful that they have set up their own company to do their own bit for the environment.
Can plants recharge your phone? In Spain, entrepreneurs have come up with a crazy idea. They're trying to produce electricity with plants, using a specially designed plant pot. In the cells of living beings, there's a tiny flow of electricity. Soil bacteria, which live from organic matter released by plant roots, also have this energy flow. As part of their metabolism, bacteria release electrons. These electrons are collected, and the electricity is transmitted to the USB port. According to the company Arkine Technologies, the energy is sufficient to charge up your phone. But critical voices say it might require bigger plants to charge mobile devices. Regardless of the details, one thing's for sure. Plants do produce electricity, and we can use it. We like that. If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Although the number of people suffering from hunger around the world is falling, data from the World Food Programme states that 1 in 9 people on the planet are still malnourished. In South Africa, about a third of all the crops grown are lost after they have been harvested. There appears to be a disconnection somewhere between the field and the plate. Food transport and storage remain a big challenge in the region, and that's where German engineers are finding ways to help.
A ravenous pest in the grain. Insects can destroy entire harvests. Uwe Richter from the University of Kassel wants to find and destroy them. In developing countries, pests can destroy 30 to 70% of a yearly harvest. The scientist uses mini sensors to hear and locate how many of them are in a granary and where.
The number of pests is what you focus on. You can live with a low number, they don't eat much, but they reproduce rapidly. That's why you have to avoid putting contaminated pallets together with uncontaminated ones in the warehouses. It's important to detect whether pests are in the pallets as early as possible.
Although it doesn't look like much, the high-tech sensor picks up everything that goes on in storage. Pests are a much bigger problem in Africa than in Europe.
There you have small farmers, porous storage systems and lots of reloading and transshipping. In Germany, a large-scale farmer takes the grain to a silo where it remains till it's sold and then it's gone. In Africa, there are lots of middlemen involved out in the countryside before the grain reaches the world market.
German researchers Uwe Richter and Christian Dede visited Ethiopia to get an idea of how shipping hubs for farm products work there. They want to find ways to reduce the dramatic losses from the harvests.
As long as the losses after a harvest remain this high, expanding production simply means you increase the volume of loss. So our idea is not to expand production, but to reduce loss. That increases the amount of available foodstuffs in a much more ecological and sustainable way.
Huge amounts of grain are lost to pests in Kenya, for example, especially with one of the country's staple foods, maize. In the German city of Kassel, Azaya Mochilwa is conducting research on drying. The climate has become less predictable, and that means harvests are now more irregular.
I'm developing a technique to be able to predict drying of maize, and why I think it is important for us to dry maize on the cob is it facilitates early harvesting of maize. We can take the crop out of the field early enough before it's damaged by insects, and the harsh weather conditions take a toll on it in terms of opening avenues for aflatoxin contamination.
Insects and fungi in grain are just one problem. Another is rot in fruits and vegetables. Joseph Kareze from Ghana is building a storage room for yams in the experimental garden at the University of Kassel. In many parts of Africa, the root vegetable is a key foodstuff.
We are trying to reinvent the African mud house, this one, built out of normal soil, into a cool house. It is possible. We just have to recouple it with a solar system to be able to blow a ventilator with a water spraying system, and with solar energy to re-dry the air, you'll be able to be down temperature into ideal storage conditions.
The storehouses are easy to build, and the energy to run them is free. The African doctoral candidate is trying to discover what storage temperature is optimal to prevent rot in yams.
Es gibt auch kaum Verarbeitung.
There is very little processing, and many of these products are very susceptible to loss. We're trying to find methods of processing them as close to the farm as possible, by cooking them or raising crops that are less perishable. The problem is always the lack of processing, transport, and storage.
Many of the methods developed in Germany to cut losses due to logistics will soon be used in Africa, including Joseph Carese's storage house for yams.
So we are presently seated in an environmentally friendly area. The lawns are well kept and green, and the beauty of nature is glaring. Sadly, human-induced soil degradation is a global problem and one of the leading causes of environmentally induced displacement. Now, this affects more than 2/3 of Africa's population. Some of these effects include loss of homes and farmland, loss of yield, as some will say yield reduction, loss in productivity, and depletion of soil fertility. This is also currently visible in some parts of Nigeria where the lands have been eroded.
Oruku, a community in Idembili North local government area, is a beautiful town in every sense of the word. Over 10 communities surround Oruku. As beautiful as the community appears, it runs the risk of being destroyed by erosion. The wide gully at Ameke, according to the villagers, is because of a sudden landslide caused by heavy rainfall in 2015, as well as the massive collection of runoff water from several villages rushing down the drainage channel across unprotected land.
Before then, it was just a very small, what I refer to as erosion. But after the rainy season of 2015, the whole thing is submerged. And it has gone so deep, as you can see, that if something is not urgently done, to arrest the situation, it will definitely take over the road.
The only major access road to the community is endangered, and the community resorts to self-help to first secure the road by diverting water from the existing channel, in addition to other measures.
If we don't do this, the much we have done, we are sure that by rainy season, nobody will be passing through this road.
As the problem prevents any agricultural activities from taking place, the community Ezigbo stream is also threatened by the heavy outpouring of red earth drifting from the erosion into the stream, causing a backward surge of the stream, thereby threatening the survival of raffia palms around it.
This flood comes from very many towns upstream, so many towns all there. This is a channel because the final destination will be where they find a river or a stream. So that is why we are suffering this bulk.
The principal of Oruku Grammar School, Isaac Uzochukwu, is helpless as the existence of the school is highly threatened.
If the erosion is not checked, in fact, within a space of some few years, it will just swallow this school.
The secretary to the Anambra State government, Solomon Chukwulogbelu, believes the federal government is listening and ready to help.
We had a meeting with the Honorable Minister for Environment last week. She's already looking at what she can do with a site like Nanka and the rest of them. But the scale of intervention needed to be done by the federal government on erosion is that, is quite huge. And unfortunately, each rainy season that nothing happens, okay, worsens the problem.
Nothing will soothe the people of Oruku better than having the reassurances of the speedy intervention on the part of the state and federal government that urgent measures be put in place so that the 2 villages in the community, as well as nearby Alo community, will be saved.
And that's all we have for this week of the show. Remember to let us know what you think, where you're doing your bit for the environment, on the website showing on your screen and through the email addresses on your screen and our social media platforms. We all love to hear from you. Tell us your story, how you're doing your bit for your environment. We'll help you tell it to the world. Until next time, it's bye-bye from Lagos, Nigeria.